Okay, y'all. Welcome to Books That Built Me, the podcast where mindset meets style, and every page leads to transformation. So, guess who I am? I am your host, Contagious Shabrilla Moore, your mindset and style coach, guiding you all through the books that shape my confidence and refine my image. And guess what else? These have rebuilt how I show up in the world. So, in each episode together, we'll uncover the wisdom between the lines. Shout out, no pun intended to Miss Ali, and how it lives in our closets as well as our thoughts and even our decisions. So, as we begin, this is coaching talk first and foremost. So, let's be very clear about that because this is not just book talk only and strictly for those who adore books, but this is for women becoming more of who they were always had meant to be and or are in the process of becoming. All right, now, are y'all ready? Okay, good. So am I. So let's get into it. Million Dollar Date. That's the book for today's upcoming series for books that built me. And the Million Dollar Date, mind you, is by I want to say it's Susan Heather. And what's so crazy about this book is that I almost did not even read this book. I was so upset. And actually, that's one of the reasons why it's such a low score. This particular book is so low. I'm going to give it probably about a 3 out of 5 stars. And I'm going to tell you all why. So, and this theme for this particular book is around style. But the rating is so low because it was so competitive. It was so mundane with the everyday voice of the writers now that are just strictly about everybody's for me. And, for me, it was the pink dress. For me, it just sounded so trendy. It was so watered down in the trends that I felt as though it really was lacking core values that really was able to resonate with the more richer crowd or a richer clientele or more richer persona and characteristics of their readers or whoever their audience members may have been at that particular point in time. And so I really did not care for that. And I had almost completely chose not to read it. So I unarchived it. And I thought that I almost removed the download too as well. But actually I didn't, which I was grateful for. So by the time I went back to put it on our Nook, because I usually read the Barnes& and Noble, you all know that I have books and things like that published on Barnes and Noble as well as I kind of sort of figure out what I want to do as well. So I can definitely always suggest that you all go there if you like. But I am going to kind of sort of um, do some things to bring awareness to that as well later on. Probably somewhere around series 3, you all can look forward to that. And I'll focus those strictly around the books that I've actually made. So series 1 is a list of books that I've completed because I went through that millionaire's mindset of the books that they read, how many books they read in a year. They read 2 books per month, so that's 24 books every year. So the point was I wanted to at least do 24 books. And in just reading material, I just landed on the term books because that's just mostly what they were. But it's magazines, devotionals, journals, anything that really helps me figure out where I want to go. It can be guides as well, novels, short stories, memoirs. They can be novellas, novelettes. I really didn't care as long as they were enhancing my attitude. Magazines, things of that nature, church services, any type of notes or guides that really helped us figure out where we were going and what we were choosing to become. And so that was how I actually ran across this. And then what's even weirder is that I had that book on that Nook for all of that time. And I swear I just assumed that I had read it. I was like, did I read this book? And so I opened it up and I started to try to read to see if it was going to jog anything memory wise, and it did not. I'm like, oh my god, I've had this book here for years and it's not even been read. Oh my god, what is happening to me? What is happening to my mindset, to my thoughts, and my thinking, and my style? If I have books that are just accumulating dust and not necessarily finding use, And so what I had chose to do was to kind of sort of fixate on that for a second, because I had some samples. I'll go through Barnes and Nobles and I'll read samples of books, and they'll go into my nook so I can actually get a kick out of reading them and figure out if it's something that's of interest or not. And so most of them were samples. So I got rid of the samples. I totally never did re-archive those and bring them back so I can go through those. I was just like, nah, okay, I just want the books that are on here to be completed, to have been read, to have gotten some kind of use out of those, no matter what the price tag was. So that's one of the reasons why it remained. And then I actually went through a grateful list. As we are Christians, I practice having a grateful list, at least 10 items that I'll take the time out to write and ponder every single day. And so right now, I believe we're like on day 145, and of just constantly building that habit. And now, as I figure out what's taking place, and I practice the idea that books are a grateful spirit, and I probably was kind of lacking in that area. And as you grow, even coaches need to grow. Even people who are on the prime court need to grow. Even people who are constantly kind of sort of making the dean's list. We're all people. So that doesn't take away from the fact that I still need to grow and figure out where I want to ultimately find myself at. And so, as I was thinking about some of those ways, I came across some of the kind of sort of outlets that allowed us to kind of sort of figure out what it was that we wanted to do. And as we kind of figure out those moments in time, whether it's just to get ourselves fully together before we show up, or showing up as our best selves, because we really want to give off a persona that says authenticity, authentic glow as a mind and course of conduct. And so when we're becoming the woman that we're meant to be inside and out, it's really no issue with doing those things. And so the $1 million date was how I actually wound up seeing that was a big piece of actually having who you were. Because when you feel as though your worthiness as a foundation of style is a real moment. But let's back up. Let's go to the title. So the title for this particular episode, which is 8 from series 1, is Luxury is a Mindset and an Outfit. Because it is. When you really try to sort of just figure out you're so luxurious, okay, that's cool and fine. But does your outer reflect the same thing that you're saying inwardly? Yes or no? And so really it's a personal question. It's really about how can I ponder those issues in a reflective manner and come out with some of the answers that I seek that are going to help elevate and place me where I would like to be at. So it's ultimately kind of sort of a thought process and how you have your thinking internally, but the style ultimately is what's going to resonate and manifest in your outward. So that's what you really want to kind of sort of see reflect as you begin to figure out who your $1 million person is. And even when you think of worthiness, myself, when I think about how I wanted to have millions of dollars, but I had to convince myself that I was worthy first. And so I wrote a list of things that told me I was not worthy. I probably had at least a list of 10. And by the time I came through each single number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the reasons why I was not worthy of this $1 million goal that I wanted, I had to counteract that and figure out what true thought really contradicted number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, and number 9, as well as 10. And by the time I did that, I learned that I am worthy, that I was worthy of the amount of money that I wanted, even when we placed those ideals extremely high, millions, billions as well. And that's really what the key takeaway was. So when I had to figure out what the shift was at awakening myself as a certain mindset and a self image about what I want to conduct myself as, the shift was no longer having samples and only having books that I wanted to read and complete. So I wanted to have the minimum at 24, and I did. And so actually, I want to say now we're around maybe I want to say 27. And by the time I figure out 28, if we do 27, 28, 29, but I know we've at least did 24, and I want to say we're pushing now 27, 28. So that was the moment where things began to shift. And then when I had a real life second where I really wanted to figure out why why is this such a big deal? Why is this shift so necessary? And my when I think about it myself, it's probably just an organizational thing. I really want to have a life that's well organized so it's easier to maneuver. If I just let those books sit there that have just then whatever, I never decided to buy them, then what is the point of having that sample just continuously looking at me in my face all day long, each and every day? It's just gonna make me pissed off. It's just gonna make me feel and experience emotions that I rather bury and put aside instead of rehashing them and harping on them over and over and over again. Like Harper Collins, which I says is a publishing house, or Harper is the guy that's in the Best Man holiday. So Christmas is coming up for 2025 as we wrap up our year and we're getting ready to go into, and everybody's like, we only got 6 months left, bro. So let's reset and lock in. And so I'm thinking to myself, we only have, yeah, okay, 6 months left. And then we're going to have those seasons where I pull out all of the Christmas stories. I already have my fall curated list out of DVDs I want to do. Hellfest. I have my October Kisses and the Pumpkin Harvest. I have Hocus Pocus, and I want to say the craft. And so I'm looking forward to those things. And I'm looking forward to doing the type of spices that are just geared for that particular season. They're in season only certain times of year, especially during the fall. And I'm looking forward to having the Halloween different pajamas. And I'm looking forward to that whole entire scenery. And same goes though for the upcoming holiday for Christmas as well. If you're Christians, you know that our holiday is Christmas. We don't really celebrate Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or the Jewish or African kind of sort of holidays. I'm a Christian African American, so I deal mostly with dealing with Christ centered around gifts and exchanges and feasting and foods and things like that because that celebrates Christ's birth. And ultimately, and what's actually even sadder is that most well, normally, okay, all of the religions normally pay homage to that particular date, no matter really what your religion. So I'm really grateful for that. I always feel a sense of community and belonging just with that particular one niche, and particularly speaking. Much like fashion, which is why I love style, and I love that idea of thinking about your mind and also tying that into artistic avenues like fashion or books and poetic, because I always feel like whenever I can speak about style, it's almost as though I'm speaking of it in a poetic manner, so it makes it easy to express, which is one of the attractions as why that labor of love is necessarily so entwined the way that it is. And so that was really where the mindset shift was, the tie-in, because I realized that okay, I wasn't really going to buy these books. I read the samples. I don't need them anymore. I can just get rid of them and clear up the space and have the organized manner that I see. And so that's what I did. And then when I also wanted to figure out how I was having these issues take place, did I really want to figure this out and then get rid of those, and then as well as kind of sort of have this empty space and have these books that I'm not reading, or did I want to kind of sort of get rid of the ones that I felt were not really in line and get rid of the samples so that's clean, and then I have to figure out the ones that I have that have yet to gotten read, and then read those so they can say completed and then leave a review and then feel as though it is a sincere authentic success that is necessarily, so to speak, yes, hard won. So that's ultimately what I did and why I chose $1 Million Day after the grateful list and after all of those things. So that's the real life moment as a tie-in. And so the style connection was definitely kind of sort of how you can understand that the $1 Million Date was actually a cop, and that the cop in particular speaking was not ever really eyeing anybody else. And I don't know why I tied this into style so much so, but I did. This is where I go to with this particular moment. And it's not about really having style to draw the attention of everybody. It's really necessarily the point of having the style to draw the attention of the man that you want and that you seek. There's differences there. And that also is almost like a coat of armor, because when you're dressed for one particular entity that you want, everything else fades away. And I know that sounds odd, that sounds weird. I had an Instagram post a while back, and I had this drawing, almost like this map that where everybody was looking, but it was so hard to see because they were all so faded, and it had gotten some interesting amount of views. And that's really ultimately though what it felt like, what it feels like. It feels like everybody's just fading besides you and that person, and you're dressed to attract them, and that's why necessarily, so to speak, people either just don't play with you, they don't come to you in a romantic sense, which is much like the $1 Million Date. And that's what I was always really geared towards when it comes to dealing with your style. And so, as you figure out how they kind of interact, and everybody's always just assuming that it's always just about money, but necessarily, so to speak, money is kind of sort of, I'm not going to shy away from money. Don't get me wrong. I love money. I have it written everywhere. I have just that thought constantly about what money is going to allow us to experience. So, ultimately, that's a really great thing, but that's not the end all be all. The end all be all is really about friendship. Some of the ways that the $1 Million Dates main male character was inheriting this money wasn't because, he just worked to his hands fell off. It was more so basically just that he had a really great friendship with someone. You know what I mean? And that's how he ended up becoming so rich and filthy rich as he happened to have been. And that was absolutely a moment and turning point for myself in that particular story. That was the style connection. And so that was really where I kind of sort of resonated and recognized and related most. And so that was something that I really thought was a positive. And that's really because it is. So friendship is always necessarily going to trump necessarily double crossing your friends in order to gain popularity or massive amounts of income. Because again, your worthiness as the foundation of style, even your worthiness of money, of true friends, you have to understand that you truly love someone in order to feel as though you're worthy of the receptance of necessarily having what you seek, even when it's necessarily a monetary thing. And so when you have those ideas in mind, then it's really easy and it's really simple. So the thing that I really want you all to take away with and advice that I want you to apply from this book through our coaching dance, which is worthiness as a foundation of style. Now, when you really seek back some of the other earlier episodes, you understand that foundation is a cosmetic. And when you take the time out to apply it evenly, that sets the tone for your entire look of everything else that you're applying. That's pretty much how you have to look at life, ladies, okay? Your worthiness is that same clear type of elegance that you place that has that creamy glow, okay? And everything that you place onto that really just adds to your radiance. And that's ultimately what you want to do. So find what your foundation is and apply it and allow whatever you add on top of it to add to your radiance. And hopefully you all can make a list, a really short one, maybe of 3 things that are your kind of sort of foundations, necessarily so to speak, that you can add to yourself as that picture of what that worthiness might be. So as your worthiness as your foundation, list 3 things. And to close it out for your style prompt, wear your best for you and not them. Let them fade, let them go ahead on where you want to be at. And we're going to go now and close it out. So, thank you for joining me for another chapter of Books That Built Me, your girl. And if this episode shifted your mindset or elevated your style in any way, please leave a comment or review. And remember that you're not just reading books, but actually you're rewriting the woman you're becoming. So wear your truth boldly, no matter what anyone says. I'll see you next time, especially the haters. Bye.